Module 1, Operations with Integers. This is section 1.8, Order of Operations. When we have an expression that has several operations in it, we need to follow something called the order of operations. A shorthand notation for remembering the order of operations is PEMDAS. PEMDAS stands for parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, and then addition and subtraction. First, you're going to take care of all the parentheses and all of the brackets. That's P. Then you're going to do your expressions and exponents, multiplication and division left to right, and then finally addition and subtraction from left to right. Not all the multiplication and then all the division, but multiplication and division as they appear. Same thing with addition and subtraction. When you're simplifying with exponents, parentheses and then exponents mean two different things. So I have negative 5 squared. That's not the same as negative 5 outside of parentheses squared. So parentheses negative 5 squared means negative 5 times a negative 5. Well, that's a positive 25. But without the parentheses, it means square the 5 and then put the negative on. So make sure that you recognize the difference between those two. Let's begin simplifying. Let's say I have negative 8 times a 3, and then that divided by the 4. When you're working with questions that look like fractions, you want to do everything on the top and then everything on the bottom. Well, if we're following PEMDAS, I need to do multiplication and division. Well, I only have multiplication up here, so that's a negative 24, and I don't have anything down here. Now I can do my division, so that will just be an 8. Following PEMDAS, I don't really have any parentheses. I don't have expressions in parentheses, but I do have an exponent. I have negative 3 squared, so that's a negative 3 times a negative 3. That's a 9. So I have 24 plus 19 plus a positive 9. I don't have any multiplication and division, so now I can just deal with addition and subtraction. 24 plus 19 is 43, plus 9 more is 52. Now I have some parentheses. I have 5 minus 2 in parentheses, so when I follow PEMDAS, I'm going to do that first. 5 minus 2 is 3. Now I have exponents. I have an exponent right here of 4 squared. Well, 4 times 4 is 16. Then you do multiplication and division from left to right. I only have one set of multiplication, and 4 times 3 is 12. Finally, I can do addition and subtraction from left to right and add the 12 plus 16. That's 28. If I follow PEMDAS here, I don't really have parentheses, right? I don't have a bunch of things in parentheses. I just have negative 7 times a negative 7. Over here I have negative 5, but that negative 5 is squared, and so I need to square the 5 first and then put the negative on front. Negative 7 times negative 7 is a positive 49. A positive 1 cubed, so 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. Didn't have parentheses and exponents are done. I really don't have multiplication and division. I had the multiplication with the exponents. So now I could just add and subtract. When you're adding numbers that have opposite signs, you find the difference between the two numbers and take the sign of the one that has a larger absolute value. Well, 49 is a larger absolute value, and it's positive. So it's going to be a positive 24. 24 minus 1 is 23. Getting a little bit longer, so let's look at our PEMDAS. I have parentheses. I have 6 minus 9. 6 take away 9 is a negative 3. Square roots are kind of like ugly exponents. This is the square root of 49, so what number times itself will give you a 49? And that's 7. Now I can deal with multiplication and division from left to right. I only have one set of multiplication. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Now I want to add a negative 6 and then subtract 7. So I'll do my addition and subtraction from left to right. Negative 12 plus a negative 6 is a negative 18. Minus 7, well, when you're subtracting, you can say change this to addition and flip that sign and get a negative 25. Nice long one for our final problem. I have parentheses, and inside the parentheses I have another set of parentheses, right? I got brackets, and then I have this piece in here. You want to start from the innermost part. Negative 3, bracket, negative 5 plus 2, and negative 4 plus a 5 is a 1. My parentheses aren't done yet. I need to deal with this little piece in here and follow PEMDAS at the same time. So if it were only negative 5 plus 2 times 1, I would have to multiply first and then add. Negative 5 plus a 2 is a negative 3. Now that's done, I can take this whole piece out and put a negative 3 in. Now that my parentheses and exponents are taken care of, I can do multiplication and division from left to right. Negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9. Finally, I can subtract. 9 minus a 6.3 will leave me with 2.7. Let's look at evaluating expressions and then also having to use PEMDAS. If I have 9x squared plus 12, but I want to let x be a negative 3, I'm going to take this x out and put a negative 3 in. Now I can evaluate this expression. If I follow PEMDAS, I don't have any expressions in parentheses, but I do have exponents. And negative 3 squared inside parentheses means negative 3 times negative 3, which is a 9. That's done, and I can do multiplication and division from left to right. 9 times 9 is 81. Finally, I can add the 12, and I get 93. Let's look at a word problem. I have a graph below that shows normal temperatures for Barrow, Alaska. We want to use this graph to find the average of the temperatures from January to May. So we're looking from January to May, and we want to find an average. To find an average, you add up all the numbers. So we're going to add up negative 14, negative 16, another negative 14, negative 1, and 20. And then you divide by the however many numbers you have. And I have 5 numbers. So I'm going to add the numbers up on the numerator. Negative 14 plus a negative 16 is negative 30. Negative 30 plus a negative 14 is a negative 44. Plus a negative 1 will give me a negative 45. Plus 20, my numerator adds to a negative 25. And then I had 5 months from January through May. So now I need to divide by 5. And 25 divided by 5, negative 25 divided by 5 is negative 5. So the average of the 5 temperatures is negative 5 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's how you use PEMDAS to solve problems.